This week's Torah portion is named Vayetze, which means, "and he went out," a reference to the first verse of this portion, wherein we are told Jacob left his home. We are told that on his journey, during a night's rest, he had a dream. And the text says that in the dream he saw a ladder was set on the earth with its top reaching to heaven, and behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. The image of a stairway to heaven with angels ascending and descending on it has various interpretations, but the most basic interpretation is that it represents the fact that the land upon which Jacob stood, or slept as the case may be, was a sacred land, a land that was a gateway to God, so to speak. And indeed, it is on that land that God spoke to Jacob, reiterating the promises first spoken to Abraham and Isaac, that he, Jacob, would be the next one in line to receive the covenant promises. It would be he and his descendants that would inherit the sacred land. As it says, "Your descendants will also be like the dust of the earth, and in you and in your descendants shall all the families of the earth be blessed." However, just like the stories of his fathers Abraham and Isaac, the story of his son Joseph, and indeed the overall story of his descendants, the people of Israel, though God had promised him great things, he would not receive the fulfillment of those promises immediately. Jacob would have to sacrifice 14 years of his life to be able to marry the woman he loved, Rachel. And Jacob endured his father-in-law's trickery for his desired bride, even though it meant being married also to Leah and having children through Zilpah. So things did not go as Jacob would have hoped, but God still used the circumstances for his purposes. With Jacob having so many children, God was able to begin to fulfill the promises that he made to Jacob, that he would have many descendants. Now, in and of itself, the story of Jacob here in this week's Torah portion is interesting enough. However, there is something in the Gospels that helps us to see that the story of Jacob is also a great foreshadowing of the greater story of Jesus and his people. In the Gospel of John, Jesus said this to Nathanael, "Truly, truly, I say to you, you will see the heavens opened and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." What did Jesus mean by this? Well, it's an allusion to the image Jacob saw in his dream in Genesis 28. Instead of a stairway to heaven, it is the Messiah himself who is the one who reaches into heaven. Jesus is the gateway to God. As Jesus said, "No one comes to the Father but through me." And just as God used the image of the stairway to heaven to proclaim the covenant promises belonged to Jacob, so too the ministry of Jesus was a proclamation by God to declare that the covenant promises belong to and will be fulfilled by Jesus. Now I say will be fulfilled because, interestingly, just as Jacob did not immediately receive the covenant promises have yet to be fulfilled in and by Jesus. Just as Jacob had to endure a long wait to receive his bride, Jesus also has been waiting all of these years in order to receive his bride, his people. However, this long wait has resulted in his people expanding throughout the world, allowing people from all nations to join with the people of Israel. And just as Jacob named the place where he had the dream Bethel, which means house of God, so too all of us who have been transformed through Jesus, who is our stairway to heaven, are now part of God's household as well.